I'm going to hit the record button.
Nice work, buddy.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go. What's the matter? Hey,
Nothing,
I even
we're
have
live.
the lower third.
We're going.
Yeah, it even tells us
Fancy
we
schmancy.
don't even have to introduce ourselves anymore. Yeah, I like that.
Just roll right through.
That's right.
Except our intro slide, go to the, flick the screeny thing to the, there we go.
There we
Because
go.
we want people to connect with us on LinkedIn.
Correct.
They know who we are. We have a magic banner now, but please, we'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn.
Yep.
We'd love your little like and your share and all that kind of stuff.
Comment. That'd be great.
Thank you. We're doing a digital workshop.
We
Digital
are.
experience workshop.
We are.
One of a series.
That is
One
correct.
more nugget of value we're trying to deliver.
I like this one.
You do?
Yep.
All right. That's good. I like them all, Stephen.
I do too. This one's always interesting because so many people are interested in the topic, but it's kind of the fun part of a project. Once you get past like rebuilding, redeveloping is kind of the big second phase,
Sure.
but it can be a lot of work.
Yeah, there it is.
If
It's fun to talk about, but people are
correct.
afraid of it. Yeah, people are afraid of it. So we are going to take all that anxiety and mystery away and tell you how to do this more effectively for you and your digital experience. As usual, we have a checklist, a worksheet, a resource for you. flyw.co/dx-personalize will get you to this worksheet. We'll come back to this in a minute, but it teases ahead at what we're going to go through. It's a checklist. It's a reference guide, so you have something handy. You don't have to watch the whole video again when you're thinking about personalization and how you can be more effective. I'm pretty sure if I hit next, it's going to tell us what personalization is all about. So before I advance the slides, Stephen, what is personalization?
it is a unique way of reaching a target audience that is either customer based, employee based, anything in your digital ecosystem where you have different audience segments you're trying to achieve through content.
It's almost like you saw the next slide ahead of time.
I have seen the next slide.
Okay. Good job. It is a unique way of reaching a very specific audience, and you target that audience with relevant information.
Relevant is a key point.
What it is not is customization.
Yes. How many times you will be in a meeting? How can we increase integration? How can we allow
customization?
Yes,
is good.
It is.
Don't
good.
avoid customization, but just in the context of what we're talking about today, that doesn't count. You do not get points for talking about customization when you're talking about personalization.
Correct. They are two different terms.
To help you understand that further, here's a good example. Personalization, we're all familiar with online shopping. You even look at a product and you get suggested other things that you may also be interested in. There's a machine there paying attention to your purchase behavior, who you are, what you're clicking on, what you're searching for, what you're interested in, and it's trying to surface other suggestions, of course, that make you buy more things but perhaps make a more relevant purchase for you. What it is not is the ability to customize your drink order at Starbucks. That is a wonderful feature. And I go to Starbucks all the time because I can get exactly the drink I want, just the way I want it. But that is customization. That is not personalization.
In this context, I remember having a customer who thought whether your screen was dark or whether it was light was personalization.
Right.
Whether you were able to magically change the fonts.
Sure. So those are customizable preferences and choices, and those are good. But what we're trying to do is deliver an experience that has adapted uniquely to the individual, not something that allows the individual to adapt to themselves. So, no joke.
I'm sorry, you put this slide in and I had to see it.
No joke. I was prepping this deck the other day and I had Spotify open in the other window, and it suggested to me that based on my listening behavior, that the right playlist in that moment was going to be emo rock teen angst for my Tuesday morning.
So many questions have been answered for me.
So many questions have been raised.
Very interesting.
Can I make another confession?
What?
I hit play.
Okay, of course you did. You just saw that Nickelback. And there we go.
Now, okay. So back to the point of what we're talking about here. That AI like Spotify knew what I have been listening to, or
of course,
perhaps my teenage children have been listening to using my account, and suggested to me that I would like to listen to more of that information. That is personalization. The ability to build my own playlist within Spotify, that's customization. So that's a great feature. I have some playlists. You can see some in the side there. I have one in the gym for my workouts that I always want to turn on, but I want sometimes Spotify to just suggest to me some stuff that it thinks that I might listen to or be surprised by what it's suggesting. Another good example of personalization.
Very interesting.
So let's get more specific about some of the situations that we've supported at Flywheel.
Yeah, and these are some of the customers that we've been working with recently over the years.
Any of these familiar to you?
Oh, of course.
Which one do you want to explain?
Well, no, you can explain them.
Sure.
But they are customers that we're working with right now. Tourism Berry is actually one that I initially started with you. So that's a perfect one.
So that's a good example. So the town of Barrie is north of us here in Toronto, and we help them with their digital experience. By default, if you come to their website, it doesn't really know who you are or very much about you. So it presents a very inviting, but, generic message to try and sort of cover all the bases, and it works effectively. But if you spend some time on that website and you go into the sports section, perhaps you're trying to organize a baseball tournament, perhaps you want to get away for a golf outing, perhaps you are organizing a convention and you need, something for your attendees to do in the evening. You're going to take in, a local minor hockey game, for example. Well, by the time you've clicked through all of those things, the system goes, well, this person is interested in sports. And so the next time that you come to the website, it's going to adjust the priority of the content that it is serving up to you, and it is going to emphasize that you might want to take another look at some of that golf information, and the other information can still be found on the page, but it's not quite as prominent. So that's a really good example of personalization done effectively. We're trying to make sure that the person on the site gets the information that is relevant and specific to them, and based on some observations and some using some of the tools and technology that we have behind that.
And what I'll just say, it's simple. It's targeted.
Yeah.
They didn't try to do this throughout the entire site.
They're being very clever about it.
Exactly.
Take the content we already have and just make sure that we're making it easy, and we're reducing barriers, and we're bringing somebody back in and making the journey very painless.
It's manageable is what I like.
The second story here is for a financial service firm, Hazelview Investments. They work a lot with financial advisors. And so if you went to the homepage, you would get the screenshot that's sort of in the background here. But there's a unique audience here, financial advisors that are looking to digest very specific information in a certain way, in a certain time frame. And so there is a landing page on the Hazelview website, and you can't quite tell from the screenshot, but it's got a different navigation. You are actually inside a slightly different purpose-built experience for that specific audience. So I like this example because we're not doing anything magic with any tools or technology here. We're just building a specific page that is addressing a specific audience with relevance. And that works quite effectively.
Yep.
The third example is one of my favorites, not to discount the other ones.
I like this one because it's very similar to I would almost say Facebook did the same. They did the same test in Nunavut for this. And you've replicated. Go ahead.
I do integrate with Facebook for this solution, actually. So the Inuit Art Foundation, nonprofit organization that helps Inuit artists access the market for their work, gives them professional development and other resources. And it's a very beautiful site. It has a lot of great art on it, as you would imagine. But if you are one of these artists in the Arctic, in the high north, bandwidth, internet bandwidth and connectivity is a real legitimate issue. You cannot download with the same speed or capacity that you can anywhere else. The bandwidth for the entire territory of Nunavut is the same as my monthly cell phone plan.
Yes.
No joke. So this website detects your location and adapts the experience to a low bandwidth format so that it is not
a barrier.
So it's not clogging the pipe. You get the exact same information. It's presented cleanly, crisply, contextually. It's the exact same information. We've just delivered it without the visuals so that you get the right kind of experience based on your geolocation.
I love it.
So those are a few examples of how personalization gets delivered in a very practical, impactful way to help you think about sort of how you can make this work for your own experience. You might identify with one of those examples that we just shared, because it does not have to be all about this fantastical, complicated algorithm that sort of is that daunting challenge that people put up for themselves. Yeah.
It's always interesting. Great slide to start off with.
Yeah.
Because early on in the 2009, 2010, I can't speak today. I started out with a lot of everybody wanted to do personalization because it was a big discussion back then.
Well,
the buzzword
functionality was coming
everything
out, yeah.
was there, and I was dealing with a lot of large and enterprise, customers, and we were going in and we were having consultation sessions, and it's amazing how quickly we scaled back for personas and use cases.
Yeah.
Originally, I remember one of our first customers were like 12 to 15 personas. It was incredible, the amount of work and effort. It was global. It was across 8 different countries having those discussions and workshops. And I can tell you right now, nothing ever happened.
Right.
It never got off the ground.
This is a good example, though, of the power of some of these tools and these concepts.
Yes.
We've certainly had conversations before where there's a lot of tension for what content should be surfaced on the homepage. What is more prominent? What is more important to deliver to a user? And you can very nicely, elegantly address that by sort of taking each business unit separately and say, pretend that you are the homepage exclusively. Build your own independent business unit landing pages. And then the homepage, we will program with some personalization so that based on how you get there, the link you've clicked, or previous visits, it will adapt to
exactly
the information that you were there to look for. A lot of larger organizations face that challenge, and this is a beautiful way to solve for that in a very easy way, because we're not asking you to produce content you would have not otherwise produced. We're just asking you to be a little bit smarter about the way that you build, the homepage or one of those landing pages.
Correct.
So have you faced other sort of challenges or resistance in this
all
regard?
The time? The biggest challenge, the number one challenge is, again, everybody wants to do a lot.
Yeah.
And then you really work into the fact that there's just not enough people to do the work. And that, when I look at it right now, it's when we have the discussion, everybody says, well, this is what we're thinking. And I go, well, somebody has to maintain the personalization.
Yeah. And so I guess it can be overwhelming, and that's where you can just kind of shut down. But I think
Correct.
what I try to advocate is not to sort of squash that enthusiasm, but to let it out. but to then just be practical about how to deploy it.
Yes. Well, and that's exactly,
because I think that
yes.
that when you're in an organization and you get a lot of people talking about this, it can kind of take on a life of its own. So watch out for that. And I think if you can effectively manage that and just set expectations and set your priorities and start to chip away at this, then you can do, one business unit. And once it's up and running, it's up and running. And then you can shift to the second priority. So I guess my point to what you're saying is I would accommodate that by approaching it in a priority order.
Correct.
Iterating through and taking it one step at a time.
Because as we're probably going to get into, it's about building a governance model so that when it does scale out, there is some type of process in place, as well as the metrics. Like, how are you even governing whether the metrics are giving you what you want?
For one scenario first.
That's what I'm saying.
Don't build and try and wrap your arms around everything at once, or it will be too big.
Yes, you need to build the vertical first,
right?
So that you can understand what you want to do.
Okay, so we're teasing ahead. This conversation is already leading into some of the other slides that we have about how to actually do this. So we want to really encourage you to do this in a digestible, manageable, reasonable way for your organization. So we've got kind of 3 levels of sophistication that we're going to go through here. And we can start with the first one, which is just get a dedicated landing page. We showed that Hazelview example. That's a really good one where you are thinking about the audience first. Who am I trying to communicate to? What are the unique pieces of information that they are looking for that I can provide to them, and build a presence on your site for that specific audience. What this should not be is a landing page for a specific product, for a specific service. You're not trying to add more detail about one thing that you do. You are trying to add more detail that is relevant to one audience segment.
Correct.
It's a important sort of frame of reference mindset for getting this right.
And if you go back to one of our last workshops on persona development, you'll notice we touch on that. We touch on what an audience first persona is versus, because I hear it all the time, right? They want to say the person who wants to buy such and such.
Right. Exactly. You may have a direct alignment between an audience segment and a specific product or service. So then your mind goes to building out more content that just talks about that service or that product, thinking, well, by doing that, I'm addressing that audience, but you're only getting half of the equation done. You need to put it in a way that speaks directly to that audience and nobody else, and perhaps references some of the other pages. You may have to beef up some of the other content on your website here, but what we're advocating here is just build out audience specific content first, and then go deeper, go broader, do more of that kind of stuff.
Yep. And the task is always daunting because you have to listen.
I don't think it is. I think sometimes it's daunting trying to wonder where to start, but if you just ask the questions, if you talk to the people that are interacting with your customers, this thing almost writes itself.
Again, that's why you hire us, is because we help you through that journey.
There's the plug.
Again, if you're not sure, that's where we come in, right? That's where organizations like ourselves who do it, we've gone through this so many times, we have an understanding of it.
Sure. And can sort of help. Yeah, I think maybe sort of at that level 2 level where adding more capacity or bringing in somebody like us might help. And this is where you can say, I get it now. So you're at level 2 when you can really appreciate it. You've done a little bit of a proof of concept yourself, or you're ready to embrace it more wholesomely. And this is where we're going to talk about personas, and we're going to start to get a little bit more in depth. But what I'm advocating, what we're saying here on this slide is, because slide 3 is where we use words like personas and journeys and touch points, but we're not there yet. And with level 2, you're getting more specific about your audience formalization. You're writing that down. You're socializing that. You're finalizing and getting alignment and agreement on that internally. You're getting more robust about unique specific content. And the big difference between sort of a level 1 and a level 2 is there's cadence and consistency that gets added here. With level 1, we're saying just plant that flag, get something done. Don't think too hard. Don't put up your own roadblocks. Get something out there. With level 2, we're now saying, hey, nice work. Now let's make this a routine.
Yeah. With level 2, you should have the metrics now to evaluate how you're doing.
Yes.
Level 1, even if you're in a large organization, you should have enough budget and enough
level ability. 1 is the kind of thing you can kind of almost sneak in by yourself.
Exactly.
Alone. You're like,
that's
okay,
what
I can
you want
do this,
to do.
right?
So whether it is that landing page, blog page, whatever it is, it has to be something you can do now to show proof.
And then it's your proof of concept. And then level 2 is like, hey, this is working. Let's get a little bit more formal about it. And then level 3 is where you really accelerate and you lean in, and you've got all of this structure and formality around it. It doesn't have to be arduous or bureaucratic, but you have formal audience definitions created as proper personas. You know exactly what the desired outcome is going to be and what conversions you want to try and encourage. You've defined that journey that somebody wants to go through in order to get to that point. The touch points and the content are what are going to influence people along that path, and your metrics and your measurement are set up specifically for each one of those journeys, those funnels. And so in this scenario, you get to have a lot of fun because you got to kind of mix and match, and you get to share content across the different journeys and the different experiences. And using some tools that we'll get to in a minute, you can also see sort of what's working, what's not, where to adapt, where to lean in, where to pull back. So when you're at level 3, this is an adopted formal business process that your whole team is able to get behind.
Yep.
These are all concepts that we deal with in other workshops, which we've done up to this point in the year. So now we sort of, having laid the foundation there and gone through those sort of core concepts, we're now saying you can roll those all into a very comprehensive, very effective personalization strategy. But if you haven't gotten there yet, if that's not quite sort of the level that you're at yet, do not despair. Start with some of those other options that we've already talked about.
I agree.
So I think we've already said this, but this can be an iterative process. Don't boil the ocean. Start with, we've done this before. We're going into a new market, or we're going forward and we're trying to sort of test the waters with a different campaign. Let's just write one blog post.
Yep.
Let's just put one article, one video. In our case, we do a lot of those. Just get something out there, socialize it, put it out there, drop it into people's inbox, reach out to them on LinkedIn, share it, see if you can get the engagement that you're expecting by that targeted piece of content.
Get feedback.
Then you aggregate all of that. So, we've done this before where you can almost use this as a mechanism to build your momentum as well. Okay, well, sure, Scott, you told me to start by building a landing page, but maybe you actually start one step before that, which is one blog post, a second blog post, a third blog post. Hey, look, we've got 3 pieces of content. We can all put those onto one page now, and we actually have a landing page because at the bottom, we encourage people to contact us. Holy moly. It took 3 months, 1 month for each blog post, and then we wrapped it up in a landing page at the end, but you got there.
Yep.
So if you're intentional and deliberate about it, it'll happen before you know it. Start with driving people to a shared conversion. Don't over-engineer this. But then as you get more sophisticated, you might want to be able to, and this improves your metrics and your measurements, the more unique conversion opportunities you have, if it's not just driving people to your generic contact page, but if you're a financial advisor, use this page to contact us. That tells you, or it's a stronger signal that your financial advisor campaign has worked because they made it through that final conversion.
Yeah, and I would say you definitely need to have more of a plan around conversions and goals for this campaign. A lot of times when I see personas, they'll turn Google up. The fact that we're on GA4 now is a lot better, because it used to be Google Analytics would be, and they just read through, oh, we had this many bounce rates, and there was no plan. Now with GA4, you have to be more tactical. You have to say, okay, what is the conversion? Because the dashboard or the report's going to ask for that.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it's more about that engagement metric.
Correct.
Yeah. That's a different workshop though.
It is, but it's all tied
All
together.
right. We've been teasing and mentioning some tools. We have some that we like a lot. We've mentioned Sitefinity very frequently on our workshops and in our LinkedIn posts. There is a beautiful personalization engine in this digital experience platform, embedded right into the CMS to help you manage your website. It has a whole entire platform for looking at your insights and your metrics and helping you understand the ROI of your content. Do you want to speak to the effectiveness of using AI for this kind of an engagement?
Yeah, and I would even say with Insight, with Sitefinity Insight, it's almost like a light CDP. You can pull in data from a lot of different sources to start building out.
You can get it can help you understand that wholesome picture of each one of your customers.
Yeah. And so, the tools that I see, one of the tools that I see from an AI perspective just is a tool called Jasper. You can go to jasper.ai and there's a lot there. AI is kind of taken off in terms of personalization.
What does that platform do?
So what that platform does is it literally will help you build content, build a brand, build campaigns. You can add it into your site. It'll add a chat bot. It'll add quite a bit. It is a larger platform.
That sounds expensive.
It isn't, which is actually interesting. But what it is a way for you to it's a way for AI to actually help you bridge the gap for personalization. It'll help you build out a campaign around a personalized segment. And that's everything. Yeah. Content, imagery, all the way through.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think the big value of, a lot of these AI technologies for digital experience managers is its capacity to help you produce content at scale. Good content. You need to edit. There's a certain pattern and a routine that it's becoming a little bit obvious with AI generated content, but it's a beautiful way to accelerate and boost the speed of delivering and producing more content.
Especially if you're a marketing team of 2 or 1, which is very, very common.
Your next workshop video will be brought to you by our 2 avatars.
Yes.
So thanks for joining our conversation about personalization. We hope that this helps you build a more effective personalization strategy for your digital experience. We have that workshop resource again here. It starts with defining that audience, really making sure that you're intentional about who you're delivering content to. That's what this is all about. Thinking about the content that is relevant for that audience, and then making sure that after you've produced it, that you have done something that is unique, specific, targeted, and relevant. Put the right governance around this, and that's when you start getting in sort of a level 2, level 3 cadence. And then if you are able to get further along with that journey, you can enhance it by, really leaning into formal personas, conversions, and journeys. So that's just sort of your guide to get you going on content personalization. The next workshop that we're doing, we're going to talk about search. That's also a very popular one. Everybody wants to nail their SEO. So join us on October 19th if you want to know more about that one.
Perfect timing, just before Christmas.
Not quite. We've got a few more, but yes,
we're months.
Getting into.
I'm already seeing Christmas stuff mixed in with Halloween this year.
I couldn't believe it.
It's amazing.
I walked into the store at the end of the summer, like in August, and I was like, "Why is there Halloween stuff on the shelf?" It was bonkers.
It's the algorithm.
I don't know what it is. It's personalization? No.
That is correct.
No, it's Costco just trying to sell us more stuff.
All right, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.
Take care.